What's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm going to hit y'all with a review of the new Statik Selektah compilation, The Balancing Act. Let's get to it. Statik Selektah is an established and prolific DJ and producer coming out of Boston, Massachusetts. However, Brooklyn has been his home for many years now. Just like the late great guru of Gangstar, Statik traveled all the way from Boston to New York to pursue his hip-hop dreams. Statik has proven himself to be one of the most consistent producers of traditional hip-hop. He's been associated with the likes of Joey Badass, Pro Era, Freddie Gibbs, Action Bronson, Bun B, Currency, Styles P, and of course, Terminology. Perhaps one of my favorite Statik Selektah projects to date was the Proposal album that he produced for Ransom. If you haven't checked that out, do so ASAP. Statik Selektah is what I would consider a true student of the game. He has elevated himself to be one of the go-to producers if you want that golden era sound. This new project, The Balancing Act, is his 9th studio album and compilation. It contains 16 tracks that include a nice blend of up-and-coming MCs and veteran artists. So it's basically stacked with spitters. If you are a fan of lyrics and traditional boom bap beats with elements of soul and jazz, then you will be pleased with this album. But with that being said, let me hit y'all with this track-by-track breakdown. This thing kicks off with The Healing featuring Black Thought. It was a strong way to set this tape off. I like the punchy production as it was smooth but a little rugged. Black Thought, of course, killed it. I've been feeling myself since I felt the bass in the speaker. Track 2, entitled Keep It Moving, featuring Joey Badass and Nas, was the first single to have been released. The two trade bars over a pretty luxurious soul sample. I could only imagine how big of a moment this was for Joey Badass to get to record a song with the legend Nasir Jones. Nas is, of course, dropping some OG-like wisdom. He states, "A lot of us turned out to predicate felons, not I. My brethren's addicted to selling, slipped and turned to somebody selly. I wish that somebody would tell us then, tell us chances are slim when you dancing with sin." Track 3, Play Around, is a real highlight that features Conway the Machine, 2 Chainz, and Killer Mike. I love this particular lineup. It has a knocking piano sample. This is what I would call a boom bap banger. There's also a reggae styled hook. All three have really strong verses, but it was Killer Mike who really snapped and smoked this. You gotta love when New York and Southern artists collaborate together. It just brings out the best in all of them. Plus, I think it's super cool that 2 Chainz has worked consistently with Statik the last couple of years. Up next is another impressive record, Hard Livin', featuring Dave East and Method Man. The pairing of these two was dope, considering Dave East plays Method Man's character on the Wu-Tang Hulu series. I think Dave East gives us one of his strongest verses in a while. He sounds great over this soulful boom bap groove. He states, "Thunder on me with a silencer, that's a quiet storm. I've been about stacking bundles, I get my riot on." Method Man, of course, did not disappoint. In fact, he probably had the best verse of anyone on the whole album. I could read the whole thing, but in the interest of time, I won't. The next song is Time, featuring Jack Harlow. Now, I gotta keep it a buck. This was the first time I listened to Jack Harlow, and I gotta say, I think he did a good job. It seems like he was inspired by Mac Miller. Not only does he mention him, but he raps over a beat that would have been well suited for Mac. Yeah, this was a very smooth, introspective type of record. I like the soothing keys and the woodwinds. Oh, and how can I forget Statik scratches in the vocal sample of Slick Rick's Their Time's Limited, the Hard Rocks 2, which is the same Slick Rick sample that was most notably used on OC's classic Time's Up. Right after is Watch Me, featuring Joey Badass. He was really going off, flexing his lyrical agility. I like when Joey Badass sticks to the fundamentals and flows like this, as it reminds me of his spitting from the 1999 mixtape. I also really like the upbeat and playful sample. Statik also incorporated the Tribe Called Quest Once Again sample. Yeah, y'all. You on .5? All the time tip. So golden era fans will likely love the nostalgia. Up next is America Is Canceled, featuring Terminology, Jada, and Styles P. This is a conceptual record about America's failure to heal racism, economic equality, and also touches upon a lot of current events from 2020. Sonically, this record is very jazzy, but there's a darker and moodier tone similar to some of the beats found on Kendrick's To Pimp a Butterfly. Terminology gave us a really fire verse. He's been known to do so quite often, but I feel he never really gets his praise on social media. But he's mad consistent as an MC. Jada was dropping some jewels here, but I noticed he was using more of a slow flow. I thought Styles really killed his verse. He's another veteran MC who has the hunger of a rapper in their 20s. What follows is No Substitute, featuring Buffalo's own Benny the Butcher and H-Town representative Paul Wall. The beat is ultra smooth and atmospheric. I have to say it felt like Statik was going for a Justice League style of instrumental here. You already know Benny had several quotable bars, and Paul Wall sounded pretty decent on the same track with Benny. He was giving us some hustle and motivation type of bars. Overall, this was a very solid track. Following this is Off My Mind, featuring Rome Streetz, Fly Anakin, and Highly Supreme. Alright, so I didn't care for the hook, but I thought the rapping was dope, mainly from Rome Streetz. Lots of trials and tribulation. It's a hooligan tutoring. Had to exercise my mind to hustle. My mother turned 2 to 10. Highway to hell, need the road to riches, and the smoothest bends. Really, Rome Streetz was the only good part of this song for me. I didn't like the beat either, to be honest. Then we had Welcome to the Game, featuring Marlon Craft. Marlon Craft is an up-and-coming MC out of Hell's Kitchen, NYC. He can definitely rap, so that's good that he was able to get some exposure. This was another really polished piece of jazz rap. It felt like live instruments were being played. It's a classy beat, but not really something I'll likely revisit. I'm saying this because I was starting to feel a little bit of jazz overkill at this point in the compilation. I just needed something punchier to break things up. Just to be clear, I didn't feel this way until tracks 9 and 10. After this, we have Soul Custody, featuring Evidence and Blue, two underground West Coast spitters who are well respected, especially Blue, who has an enormous fan base on Twitter. I enjoyed the smooth and dreamy soul sample. This has a very strong West Coast boom bap vibe. It did give me the feeling of listening to some old Dilated Peoples or Defari. Track 12 is No More, featuring Lil Fame, Smoke DZA, and Rim the Villain. Let me tell y'all, Statik was in his bag for this record. I know Statik loves to incorporate elements of smooth jazz into his beats, but I really feel that he has a knack for this kind of soul sample production. Now, this was by far the most standout beat on the album, in my opinion. What follows is Ralph Lauren's Closet, featuring Thurston Howell III and the late great Sean Price. So you already know that Brooklyn is in the house. This is for all the low heads out there, for the vintage polo rockers who have all the classic pieces in their closet. This contains another attractive sample. It's beautiful but eerie at the same time. Plus, it was dope to get another Sean Price verse. Immediately after is Balance Beam, featuring Nick Grant, CJ Fly, and JFK. Nick Grant is an extremely talented MC who I feel went under the radar as of late. He was someone I was checking on a few years back. For some reason, he always gave me Fashawn vibes, but he is coming out of South Carolina. So I thought Nick Grant and CJ Fly came through with strong verses. CJ Fly has a dope project produced by Statik Selektah that came out earlier in the year. But yeah, this was a solid record. The second to last song is Way Up, featuring Bun B and Havoc. It's a poignant spot on this compilation. On here, Bun B and Havoc reflect upon their departed rhyming partners Pimp C and Prodigy. It's a great tribute song. It makes you appreciate how ahead of their time both Pimp C and Prodigy were, and how forever impactful they will be on hip-hop. This project closes out with Immortal, featuring Dallas, Texas MC Bobby Sessions. It's another jazz rap track that's very mellow, but I thought the lyrics were good. Overall, I'll give this project a strong 3.5 mics. I'm thinking like a 3.8 to 3.9, and I'm saying this because while I dug the rapping a lot, the lyrics were super dope, and I thought most of the beats were also really good. I think I wanted to hear more sampling and just rugged loops as opposed to the smooth live band jazz sound. I just think that Statik is at his best as a producer when cooking up beats and samples like the tracks Play Around and No More. I prefer that over the real clean, luxurious, jazzy beats, but that's just my opinion. I'm sure it's not a popular one, but I gotta keep it a buck. Despite that small gripe, I still enjoyed this project. There were a lot of standout songs and strong verses on here, and a handful of songs that I plan to keep in my rotation for a while. It felt good to listen to a compilation again, as we don't get them too often with the exception of K-Slay. At the end of the day, this was a very solid effort, and you gotta respect the shit out of Statik Selektah for his consistency in the game. My favorite tracks include Keep It Moving, Play Around, Hard Living, Watch Me, America Is Canceled, No More, and Way Up. Let me know what you thought about this project in the comment section below. What should I check out next? It's your boy, Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Statik Selektah, The Balancing Act, 1.